There comes a moment in every life when your back is against the wall, your strength is drained, your prayers feel unanswered, and your heart is tired. You've tried everything you know to do, you've pushed every door, knocked on every opportunity, and still nothing seems to move. But hear me, your limit is not God's limit. Where you stop is where his power begins. There is a sacred place called surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of trust. It is the moment you stop wrestling with what is beyond your reach and place it in the hands of the one who never fails. Some of the greatest miracles begin in moments of stillness. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. God has been working behind the scenes, arranging, preparing, aligning. Just because your eyes can't see, it doesn't mean heaven is silent. Delay does not mean denial. God has his own timing, and his time is always right. Sometimes rest is the greatest act of faith. You think fighting harder will fix it, but God says, "Be still, I've got this." When you stop striving and start trusting, you unlock a power that goes beyond your ability. Your job is obedience. His job is outcome. You plant the seed, he provides the harvest. And when God finishes a thing, no man can reverse it. No barrier can stop it. No enemy can block it. So today, release what is too heavy. Let go of what you cannot change, and stand still long enough for God to show you what only God can do. Because when you've done all you can and your hands are empty, that's when his hands are full. Human strength has a limit, God's power doesn't. There comes a moment in your journey when every effort you've made feels like it's hitting against an invisible wall. You've tried everything you know how to try. You've prayed, you've pushed, you've planned, and still nothing seems to shift. That is where many people begin to feel discouraged, believing that if something hasn't changed yet, it never will. But the truth is, your limb, it is not the end. It is the place where God begins to show himself strong. You were never designed to carry the full weight of life alone. You were not created to solve every problem, fix every broken situation, or understand every mystery. The human mind can only reach so far. The human body can only endure so much. The human heart can only take so many blows before it grows weary. But just because you have reached your end does not mean God has reached his. In fact, God often waits until you run out of strength so that you can fully recognize where your help truly comes from. There are seasons when you will work diligently, pray sincerely, and believe wholeheartedly, yet still feel stuck. This is not a sign of failure. It is a divine reminder that your journey is not powered by your strength alone. It is a partnership, your obedience and God's power working together. You plant seeds, but only God can make them grow. You can take steps of faith, but only God can open doors. You can speak life, but only God can breathe his Spirit into a situation to bring transformation. Sometimes God allows you to come to the end of yourself, so you will look up and see him more clearly. When life is moving smoothly, we begin to rely on our own abilities. We trust our intelligence, our skills, our income, our relationships, and our resources. But when all of those things fail, when strength runs out and plans fall apart, we realize how desperately we need the one who is greater than all of these things combined. It's not that God wants you to struggle, it's that he wants you to lean on him fully. The limit of your strength is not a punishment, it is a safeguard. If you could fix everything on your own, you would never seek his presence. If you could handle every battle by yourself, you would never know his power. If you could understand every step ahead, you would never need his guidance. God uses your limitations to anchor you to his limitless power. He allows moments of weakness so you can experience his strength. He allows moments of confusion so you can discover his wisdom. He allows moments of emptiness so you can taste his abundance. Think about how many things in your life have worked out in ways you did not plan. Times when you had no idea how things would turn, yet somehow they did. That was not your strength. That was his grace. The miracle didn't come because you were powerful. It came because he is faithful. God does not require perfection from you, only surrender. He asks that you do what you can and trust him with what you cannot. So when you stand at the edge of your ability, don't panic, don't lose heart. That is not where your journey ends, that is where God begins. When your strength fails, his takes over. When your vision fades, his becomes clearer. When your voice trembles, his speaks louder. Human strength may be limited, but the power of God has no boundary, no expiration, no impossibility. What you cannot do, he can. What you cannot see, he has already prepared. Where you stop is exactly where he starts. Surrender is not giving up, it's trusting up. There is a deep difference between collapsing in defeat and releasing something into God's hands. Many people misunderstand surrender, imagining it as a sign of weakness or a declaration of failure, but true surrender is an act of courage. It is a decision to place your situation, your desires, your fears, and your uncertainty into the care of the one who sees farther than you and loves you more deeply than you can comprehend. When you surrender, you acknowledge that you were never meant to control everything. Control is heavy. It weighs on the mind, drains the heart, and burdens the spirit. You were not created to carry every outcome, force every answer, or understand every detail. Sometimes the very thing that is overwhelming you is not the situation itself, but the pressure you've placed on yourself to solve it alone. When you surrender, you trade the weight of control for the peace of trust. You stop wrestling with what is beyond you and settle into the truth that God is already working on your behalf. Surrender doesn't mean inactivity or apathy. It does not mean you stop praying, believing, or showing up. Instead, it means you release the need to dictate how and when the answer will come. You continue to do what you can, but you no longer allow anxiety to convince you that everything depends on you. You become free, free to breathe, free to hope, free to rest, because you know that God's hands are stronger than yours. There are seasons where you will try with all your strength to hold something together. A relationship, a career, a dream, an identity, only to find that the more you cling to it, the more it slips through your fingers. That is often because God is asking you to release what you've been clutching so tightly. Not to take it away, but to take control of it. When you surrender that thing, you give God permission to shape it according to his will. You allow him to guide you beyond what your limited understanding can achieve. Trusting up means you choose faith over fear. You look at your situation and say, I don't know how this will work out, but I trust the one who does. Trust is not built in ease. It is forged in uncertainty. It grows when life is unclear, when answers are delayed, and when outcomes remain hidden. Every time you surrender what you cannot control, your trust deepens. You begin to see that God has never failed you, not once. Even in moments that seemed unanswered or painful, He was working something bigger and better than you could imagine. Surrender is a doorway to peace. When you release your grip, you make room for God to move. You stop blocking the blessing by trying to manipulate the timing or direction. Sometimes the very thing stopping the breakthrough is your refusal to let go. You've been fighting, pushing, forcing, and God is simply waiting for you to step aside so He can do what only He can do. Surrender also aligns you with purpose. When you trust up, you position yourself to receive instruction, guidance, and favor. You begin to flow with God instead of fighting against His plan. Your heart becomes lighter because it no longer beats to the rhythm of fear, but to the rhythm of faith. This surrender does not silence you, it strengthens you. It does not make you smaller. It places you in the hands of the Almighty, where your life is held securely. It is the pathway to deeper relationship with God, because intimacy grows when trust is required. Surrender lifts your eyes from the problem to the problem solver. It shifts your posture from frantic striving to patient expectation. It reminds you that the one who holds tomorrow is more capable than you have ever been. You are not giving up, you are handing over. You are choosing the wisdom of heaven over the limitations of earth. You are choosing peace over panic, trust over turmoil, and faith over fear. When you surrender, you do not lose, you gain access to the strength, wisdom, and power of God. That is not defeat, that is victory. God works behind the scenes. Just because you cannot see progress with your physical eyes does not mean nothing is happening. The silence of God is never the absence of God. Often the greatest moves of heaven begin in places that feel still, hidden, and quiet. We are quick to assume that when life is slow or unchanged, God has forgotten us. Yet the truth is, He does His most detailed and delicate work where no one is watching. He arranges circumstances, aligns hearts, prepares opportunities, and positions resources long before they surface in your reality. Think about a seed buried underground. You cannot see its growth. You cannot hear it shifting. You cannot witness its roots forming and reaching. The ground looks flat and still, giving no sign of what is unfolding beneath the soil. But just because your eyes see nothing does not mean nothing is happening. The seed is alive, expanding, strengthening, preparing for the moment it breaks through. In the same way, God is working beneath the surface of your life. He is shaping you, strengthening you, deepening your faith, and aligning everything needed for your breakthrough. We often want God to move publicly, visibly, immediately. We want instant answers, clear signs, and obvious miracles. But the same God who can split the sea also knows the power of hidden preparation. The process you cannot see is forming the blessing you will one day hold. You might be in a season where doors seem closed, relationships unclear, finances tight, and prayers unanswered. You look around and ask, "Where is God?" But what you perceive as inactivity is actually divine strategy. Sometimes God hides His work to protect it. If He revealed everything too soon, others might sabotage it, misunderstand it, or try to take credit for it. So He shelters the blessing, guards the process, and keeps certain things unseen until the time is right. The silence is not rejection, it is protection. His timing is perfect, and His wisdom is higher than your understanding. There are situations where God is preparing you instead of delivering you. He may be developing patience, humility, strength, or wisdom within you. What you call delay, God calls development. He knows that a premature blessing can become a burden, so he matures you, stabilizes you, and equips you so that when the blessing comes, you will be able to carry it well. A door opened too early can destroy a person who is not ready. A door opened at the right time becomes destiny. God also works through people you have not yet met. He may be influencing someone's heart on your behalf, arranging a conversation, shifting a decision, or moving someone into position to bless you. You might think nothing is happening, but somewhere a heart is changing, a mind is softening, an opportunity is preparing. You may not know their name yet, but God is already connecting the dots. Even your pain is not wasted. Every tear, every delay, every disappointment is woven into his plan. Sometimes God allows you to be uncomfortable because growth never happens in ease. The push, the stretch, the weight, all of it is molding you into who you need to become. And though you wish to skip the process is where you are prepared for the promise. When God finally reveals what he has been building behind the scenes, you will look back and understand why things took time, why doors closed, why certain people left, and why battles were necessary. Nothing was random, nothing was pointless. He was working the entire time. So when life feels silent, remember, roots grow in silence. Foundations are built quietly. Masterpieces are created privately. Trust that God is moving where you cannot see. He is not late. He is not distant. He is working perfectly, intentionally, and powerfully behind the scenes. Delayed does not mean denied. So often in life we mistake waiting for rejection, silence for abandonment, and delay for failure. But God's timing is not bound by our clocks, calendars, or expectations. What feels slow to us is often strategic to him. There are things he must rearrange, refine, and prepare before the promise can be released. A delay is not proof that God has forgotten you. It is proof that he is working in a realm you cannot see. There are lessons you can only learn in waiting. The wait teaches patience, trust, and faith. It stretches your vision beyond immediate gratification and trains you to anchor your hope not in outcomes, but in God himself. When everything comes quickly, we rarely appreciate it. But when we have waited, prayed, endured disappointment, and held on, the blessing carries weight. It becomes more than just an answer, it becomes a testimony. You may feel like life is passing you by, like others are reaching milestones while you're stuck in place. But delay is not stagnation, it is preparation. Think of a fruit that is plucked before its season. It is bitter, hard, and incomplete. But when left to mature, it becomes sweet, nourishing, and whole. In the same way, some blessings require full maturity in you, in others, and in circumstance. If God handed you everything the moment you asked, you would not be ready to carry it. Blessings given too early can crush you. Blessings given at the right time build you. Sometimes God delays to protect you. The opportunity you're praying for might look good, but God sees the hidden traps. He sees the timing, the people involved, and the spiritual implications. If he withholds something, it is because he knows what you cannot know. His "not yet" is often a rescue disguised as disappointment. If he closes a door or slows your steps, it is not to punish you, it is to shield you from what would harm you and position you for what will grow you. Delayed does not mean that God is unsure. It does not mean he is reconsidering the promise. His yes remains yes, even when his delivery is delayed. If he has spoken it, he will fulfill it. The pause between promise and fulfillment is where faith is tested and obedience is proven. Many people give up in the pause. They assume nothing is happening, so they walk away. But the ones who hold on, even when they cannot see a way, are the ones who witness the miracle. The delay may not be about the promise, it may be about the person you are becoming. God is shaping your character, building your endurance, aligning your heart with His purpose. He is stripping away pride, fear, and doubt. He is growing humility, resilience, and belief. The weight builds a foundation strong enough to sustain the weight of what is coming. Without that foundation, the blessing could collapse. Even in delay, God provides signs of His presence. A whisper in prayer, a word of encouragement, a sudden peace. These are reminders that He is working. He brings comfort while you wait, strength when you feel weak, and clarity when confusion tries to take root. He will not leave you wandering without direction. He teaches you to trust the process even when the outcome is hidden. And when the promise finally comes, you will realize the wait was never wasted. You will see how every tear, every setback, every closed door contributed to your growth. You will look back and say, if it had happened earlier, I wouldn't have been ready. You will understand that delay was not denial, it was alignment. It was God ensuring that everything would come together perfectly. The longer the delay, the greater the testimony. The wait is not easy, but it is worth it. The God who began the work will finish it. The promise is not gone, it is simply maturing. Hold on, what is delayed is not denied. It is on its way, and it will arrive right on time. Rest is a weapon. Most people think rest is passive, a sign of inactivity, weakness, or surrender. But in the kingdom of God, rest is not retreat, it is strategy. When God invites you to rest, He is not asking you to withdraw from responsibility. He is asking you to withdraw from anxiety. Rest is not about doing nothing. It is about trusting someone who can do everything. It is a spiritual stance that declares, I don't have to fight every battle in my own strength because God is fighting for me. Worry drains you. Fear paralyzes you. Anxiety clouds your vision, but rest restores what panic steals. Rest clears your thoughts, calms your spirit, and gives you the clarity to hear God's voice. When your heart is at peace, you can discern His direction, recognize His timing, and follow His guidance. When your soul is still, you can see the situation differently, not through the lens of fear, but through the lens of faith. Rest is an act of war against everything trying to overwhelm you. The moment you choose peace, you defy the enemy's plan to exhaust you. You weaken his strategy because he depends on your fear, your stress, and your hurriedness. He knows that as long as you are frantic, you are distracted. As long as you strive in your own strength, you are vulnerable. But when you choose to rest, you shift your weight onto God. You stop fighting alone and allow heaven to intervene. A resting heart is a confident heart, confident that God is present, God is aware, and God is working. Even nature teaches us the power of rest. Every night the world goes still, the sun sets, the body sleeps. Muscles recover, mind resets. Growth happens not only in movement but in stillness. Fields rest so they can bear fruit again. Trees rest so they can blossom next season. Rest is not neglect, it is replenishment. It is preparation for the next assignment. When you rest, you are not losing time, you are gaining strength. Rest is also spiritual resistance. It says, I refuse to let circumstances own my peace. Anyone can panic, anyone can worry. Faith looks like stillness in chaos. Faith looks like laying down to sleep even when storms rage around you. Faith says, if God brought me this far, he will carry me further. Rest is what trust sounds like. It is the quiet confidence that God has already gone before you. Sometimes God will intentionally slow you down to protect you. You may want to rush into decisions, relationships, or opportunities, but God says, rest, wait. Not because he is withholding something good, but because he is aligning something better. In the pause, he protects you from premature steps. He shields you from people not meant for your life. He blocks doors that would have led to disappointment. Rest is not punishment, it is protection. Rest also allows God to fight battles that are too heavy for you. Some situations require your movement, but others require your stillness. When you rest, you acknowledge that your ability is limited, but God's is limitless. You stop striving and allow him to do what only he can do. Some doors will never open because you pushed. They will open because you trusted. Some battles will never be won because you fought harder. They will be won because you stood still and watched God move. And rest does not mean inactivity, it means inner quietness. You can be working and still be at rest because your spirit is not troubled. You can be waiting and still be at peace because your heart is anchored. Rest is not about the absence of motion, it is about the presence of calm. It is the posture that says, I refuse to let fear dictate my steps. When you operate from rest, you make better decisions. You think clearly, you love deeply, you speak wisely, you walk confidently. You stop reacting from panic and start responding from purpose. Rest aligns you with God's rhythm, not rushed, not delayed, but perfectly timed. So let the world run. Let anxiety shout. Let pressure push. You can choose rest. Because rest is not weakness, it is warfare. It is confidence in the one who never sleeps, never fails, and never stops working. Rest is your testimony that God is in control, and nothing can shake the peace he has placed within you. What God finishes cannot be interrupted. When God begins a work, he does not abandon it halfway. He is not intimidated by obstacles, discouraged by resistance, or delayed by circumstances. Every purpose he establishes carries the weight of eternity. No force on earth or in the spiritual realm has the authority to halt what God has ordained. Human hands may build, but only God can seal. When he seals a thing, no one can unseal it. When he closes a door, no one can reopen it. When he opens one, no one can shut it. We often fear that people, situations, or failures can steal what God has prepared for us. But what comes from God is secured by his power, not by our performance. You are not strong enough to ruin God's plan, and your enemies are not strong enough to block it. God does not write in pencil. His plans are not vulnerable to erasure. He writes into eternity, where no circumstance can undo what he has spoken. Even when life appears to take detours, the destination remains unchanged. God weaves every setback, every delay, and every disappointment into the larger tapestry of his intention. There will be moments when it feels like the promise died, when relationships end, opportunities close, or dreams collapse. But what looks like an ending to you is often a transition in God's eyes. He finishes what he starts, but he finishes it his way. You may imagine a straight path, but God uses mountains, valleys, and wilderness to refine you. The journey may look chaotic, but the outcome is guaranteed. It does not matter how dark it becomes, the light of his purpose will break through. God's completion has a signature, permanence. When he establishes something, it stands, nothing can uproot it. People may walk away, circumstances may shift, but his word remains. His promises are not fragile. They are built on the foundation of his character, unchanging, unwavering, unstoppable. The world changes daily, but God remains the same. If he began to bless you, he will continue. If he promised breakthrough, it will come. If he spoke healing, restoration, or elevation, no power can silence it. Even your opposition becomes a tool in his hands. What was meant to destroy you will develop you. What was intended to block you will build you. God is so powerful that he can take the enemy's plan and turn it into the very pathway that leads you into purpose. The enemy can attack, but he cannot overrule God. He can distract, but he cannot dismantle God's design. He can try to delay, but he cannot deny what God has ordained. Every weapon formed may be crafted, but it cannot prosper against the one whose word cannot fail. The completion of God's work is not dependent on ideal conditions. He does not need perfect situations to bring something to pass. He can create rivers in deserts, open doors in prisons, and build platforms from broken pieces. He specializes in finishing what seems impossible. The very areas where you feel most vulnerable are the places where his power will show itself the strongest. He completes through weakness because his strength is made perfect there. Think of the battles you've survived. There were times when you didn't think you would make it, yet here you are. Not because you were strong enough, but because God was not finished with you. If he were done, you wouldn't be here. Your breath is proof that purpose remains. You might not see the full picture yet, but he is still painting. You might not understand the process, but he is still working. Every chapter of your story is leading to the fulfillment he promised. God's completion often arrives in unexpected ways. You may pray for a door to open, and instead he gives you a new building. You may seek restoration in one area, and he blesses an entirely different one. His completion is abundant, surpassing what you asked, thought, or imagined. When he finishes, there is overflow, there is clarity, there is peace. So do not fear the interruptions, the resistance, or the quiet seasons. They are part of the divine process. If God started it, he will finish it. No enemy can erase it. No circumstance can reverse it. No opinion can change it. What God finishes cannot be interrupted. It stands forever, sealed by the one whose power has no limit and whose purpose never fails.